All right, hello out there, YouTubers. Welcome back. Just a little epiphany, I guess you could say, or my take on the 400 series highways or highway driving in Ontario. Now, I'm wondering if it's just me or if anyone else kind of gets a feel that it's like the Wild West out there. You know, there's no well, there are rules. There are plenty of rules in place to make things run better and run more efficiently. However, no one seems to know them. Now, everyone can just, I shouldn't say everyone. I hate using these blanket terms. Quite a few people, and I would say a large majority of people on the roads have this obsession or idea that they are not the problem, that they know how to drive properly, that since they don't speed, they don't drive aggressively, they're not part of the problem, you know? Now, what I'd say to these people are that, you're ignorant. In most cases, that's the truth. You're being very ignorant. Now, let me qualify this as well, because I'm not trying to say that I am the perfect driver. That is just, I don't think anyone is perfect in this world. As we know from human beings in the past and history, history repeats itself, history repeating. Nobody's perfect. That's a fact. So, anyway, now that I've said that, I make mistakes too, but I'm going to focus on the things that I do right and that a lot of other people do wrong. And probably the main reason why our 400 series highways are so freaking chaotic these days, there's obvious issues with volume right now. Now that's something that we really can't control unless the government or someone else, private industry, steps up and wants to expand the highway or build a parallel highway to the 401 or the Gardner QEW. But I doubt that's going to happen. There just isn't any real space for it. They did it before, obviously, with the 407, and look where that ended up in this massively, exploitative highway that is incredibly expensive to drive on, and it's way too far north for most people anyway. So what happens is the highway ends up being barren most of the time, which is such a waste considering that we could use that extra lane, or we could have used that extra lane on the 401. So let's focus on point number one that I've got here. Driving in the wrong lanes. Okay? Now, when you're on the collectors, and I'm talking about the areas where there's collectors and express, so a total of at least a minimum of 6 lanes, generally. Because there are parts of the highway that are poorly designed to, like the area, if you're going west around Yonge Street, where there's only 2 lanes on the collector. Or, sometimes lanes will just miraculously appear. Like if you're going east near Yonge Street, there's a lane that just starts out of nowhere on the right there, and then the left lane exits off onto the express. So now that I've, obliged me there, now that I've gone off topic, I think the real problem is that people don't know how to drive in the proper lane. Okay. On the collectors, all right, you shouldn't be crowding the far right lane because that lane is often used for cars coming onto the highway from the on-ramps. Now, in order to make all highway traffic better, you should be giving people an appropriate amount of space so that they can properly merge onto the highway. Now, there's all kinds of offshoot issues that come here, including, and not limited to, the people that try to merge onto the highway going like 50 or 60, because that makes a lot of sense. Everyone else is driving 100, so I've got a bright idea. I'm going to merge at 60 and not think that's dangerous. There's many people that do that and still consider themselves good drivers, even though they're clueless as to the amount of risk that they're putting themselves in. It's incredibly dangerous, especially with, as I mentioned, the quality of drivers on the road today. You just cut somebody off, unless they're a good driver or paying attention, chances are they're going to run right into the back end of you. And that's, especially at highway speeds, that's how fatal accidents occur. All right? So let's get back to lane positioning. People should really only be in the right lane of the collectors when they're getting on the highway or if they're preparing to get off the highway. All right? Aside from that, you should then get over to the middle lane. Now, the middle lane is for those people who just essentially want to drive and go slow or don't have long distances to travel. Because technically, you shouldn't be driving long distances on the collector. You should be merging over to the express and then staying in the right lane on the express if you're a slow driver. However, if you do only have a short distance to go and you don't want to do all the lane changes, stay in the middle lane on the collectors, okay? Do not get in the left lane. The left lane on the collectors is reserved for people preparing to merge onto the express from the collectors and people passing other people in the collector lanes, okay? So it's that simple, you know. Think about it like this. You've got 3 lines. If you're slow, stay to the right. If you're going a little faster than them, then get over to the middle, all right? If you get to an area where there's an incredible amount of space and there's nobody around you, then you should be over as far right as you can, unless it's a merge area and the collectors. So rather than confuse people out there, let's go to the express. Let's move forward to the express, because that's typically where most people do their driving, and where I see the worst drivers. Okay, now it seems like everybody's first inclination is to just fling themselves over into that left lane, you know, because hey, I got somewhere to go, I drive fast, you know, whatever someone's subjective idea of fast is. Probably there's someone out there that drives faster than you, okay? Now, it's not your job to monitor people's speeds on the highway. What your job is to drive in an orderly fashion, okay? Now, if someone wants to risk speeding on a highway, that's their prerogative. That, you know, it's not up to you to block them or keep them out of the lane. That makes you a terrible driver. Worse yet, that makes you an accident-prone driver, because you're essentially causing people to rage on you and creating specific risks that should not exist. You're I don't want to condone people flying from the left lane all the way to the right and then back to the left, but in many cases the reason why people do this is because of all of the other people that are driving so improperly, blocking the lanes. So the collectors, same thing. If you get on the collectors, you should only be driving in the right lane. You know, you should be driving in the right lane. I'm not talking the merger lane that sometimes disappears back to the collectors. But if you're on the express, you should be in the right lane, okay? The only time you should even be out of that lane is if you need to get around someone who is moving slower than you. Okay? If they're moving slower than you, you proceed to the middle lane. Same idea there. You really shouldn't spend too much time there. If you have an opportunity to get back over to the right, you should get over to the right. But if it's busy and you're continuously passing people, then stay in the middle lane. You know, stay driving in there. And if you need to pass someone in the middle lane, then you proceed to the left lane. Now, the left lane you shouldn't be hanging out in that lane for any reason. You know, you really shouldn't. You should only be in that lane if you want to pass someone. So if you pass someone on the left side, you should get back over into the middle lane as soon as you can. And you should always, 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 always be aware of people who are behind you. You know, let's move to number 2. So number 1 was lane positioning. I can go on night and day. And I think that probably I should have started with my number 2 as my number 1. So number 2 is going to be attention. Now, people don't pay enough attention on the damn highways today. I would say, you know, I'm going to throw out one of these other stupid statistics, but the large majority of accidents out there aren't caused by speeding or, you know, bad drivers per se. It's caused by inattentive drivers, people who are not paying attention. So this falls back to the first one I was focusing on, okay? If you're not paying attention, you're not going to see that guy coming up behind you in the left lane trying to pass you, right? You're not going to know to get back over to the middle lane to do the appropriate thing, which is let somebody by you, right? If you're not going to see those cars coming up, or you're not going to see multiple car lengths ahead that the traffic is slowing and that you shouldn't be gassing towards this, you know, soon to be heavy wall of brake lights. Anyway, I don't think that I can rag on this enough, and there's so many other specific instances where paying attention really matters. So I'm not going to go into all the other instances, but please, please, please pay attention. That includes don't drink and drive, don't text and drive, don't turn your head to talk to your passenger and stare at them while you're supposed to be driving. That freaks them out, and it freaks out everybody else on the road, all right? That's not, you know, cars aren't a luxury time. You're supposed to be using them to get from point A to point B. That doesn't preclude you from having conversations, but it also means that the conversation should be the second priority and not number 1 priority, which is driving, okay? Focus on driving. Anyway, I think I'll leave it at that for now, but there's so many other road tips I could come up with here. Number 1, watch your lanes. be in the appropriate lanes. Number two, or number one, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Number two, try to drive in the appropriate lanes. If you see someone on your ass, get out of the way. All right, it's that simple. If you're in the left lane and somebody is trying to pass you, then you know you're doing something wrong. You should not be there. You should be out of the way. Okay, even if the traffic is a little thick, get over. There should always be space between cars. Again, it's hard to talk about this because it seems like so many people don't drive properly, so people aren't leaving proper space, people aren't driving in the proper lanes, people aren't paying the proper attention. So it makes it very difficult for a decent driver to drive on the highway and not have to break a few rules themselves. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and I've just been driving for 2 hours, and I've been driving all freaking day, and I hate driving. Pardon me, I love driving actually, but I hate driving in these conditions with all of these, I hate to say it, tools and fools and inattentive drivers that don't pay attention, that don't look at what they're doing, that don't seem to care for their safety or the safety of others. And this has nothing to do with speeding. Speeding is not unsafe in its own natural state. It's people's inattentiveness added to speeding which creates this ultra risk. So hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you enjoy, and cheers out, or peace out. Cheers. Just a quick addendum to what I was saying. Obviously, volume is a major issue on the 400 series highways. It's something that really no one can do anything about at this point. It really can only be solved by government action, or as I mentioned, private investment. But I doubt private investment's going to happen, knowing our government, and seeing how they've acted in the past, I doubt an expansion of our highways is going to happen as well. So, with that said, there's really nothing you can do about volume. Heavy days like volume, really, there's no winning. There is no winning. There is only sitting in traffic and enjoying yourself. And paying attention, obviously, to avoid fender benders. So, but I thought I'd add that in as well. Cheers. Hope you enjoyed.